Hello, folks, and welcome back to Fireside with the Colonels. It's Colonel Wynand Toit and Chris Wyatt here in central Pennsylvania. He's somewhere in an undisclosed location under the brick and steel of a bunker located in, I don't know, let's say Limpopo province. No, that's not true. Wynand, hoe gaat het?
Chris, good evening. Now it's going fine. Yeah, it was quite unexpected this today when so many people tried to contact me, thinking that I was the guy that was shot and killed, because he is also a captain in the police services. Unfortunately, he died during a robbery, and a lot of people thought it was me, but just so that we start off, that everybody can see I'm not.
You're not expired.
You can't see through me, huh?
No, you're not a ghost. You're not a ghost today. Yeah. So yeah, we can't see either. So just for clarity, to explain that to some of the viewers that don't know, I was contacted at about 3:15 in the morning a day or so ago. And this was just less than 2 hours after a shooting took place at a store, a retail location, in which a gentleman who's a SAPS police officer, a captain named Wynand Toit, namesake of yours, one of many who were children named because you became quite famous during your POW days, but named after you. He was shot and killed in a robbery, sadly. But I received an Afrikaans voice message sent to me by someone in South Africa that said that Wynand Toit has been murdered in a shooting. And I'm like, what? So that was my first reaction. And so my source sent me an English message a little bit later because, you know, my Afrikaans, you know, I speak it only in self-defense. You know how that goes. So someone sent me a note and said that, he sent me the note and said that, in fact, we're not sure, we haven't confirmed this yet. We're checking into it. So I was able to reach out to some sources and eventually got a copy of the police report that said that Captain Toit had been the person killed. Now, the story was plausible, Wynand, because it was in South Africa. It was in Springs, and you get around the country traveling. And I also couldn't reach someone else that's very close to both of us who oftentimes, if you're in that part of South Africa, would be with you. I only got one tick mark when I sent him a message. So my first thought is, oh my gosh, maybe something did happen and they've got his phone or something. But I didn't panic, and I waited. And a short while later, I got confirmation that sadly it was Captain Toit. And that was sad news, but you didn't respond to my text message initially, and so it got delivered, and I was concerned. But lo and behold, we had a conversation last night, and I could prove that we have proof of life. There he is, and he's with us again today. So for anybody who's confused, tragic news in South Africa, yet another murder, and this one in the commission of a crime where a police officer was intervening to stop this from happening, lost his life. The only good news in this is I understand that he wounded and possibly killed one of the thugs who did the attacking. But this is the Wynand Toit that we all know from back in the day and today. So he's here, and I'm glad to see you're alive. My heart took a little leap there when I heard that happen. So, and not in the least bit, because I'm still looking forward to coming back to Uppington. And what would I do if you're not there?
Yeah, that will be a problem, I guess. But anyway, the thing is, I think we must just acknowledge or give our sympathies to the family, his colleagues, and of course his friends as well. And it's a sad day, and it's a sad incident, but it is not strange in South Africa. And why the spotlight of the world is on South Africa, it's perhaps very important that we do talk about this as we did now, so that whoever listens outside, and I think more and more people now will start listening to our conversations, especially also overseas, in the United States and elsewhere. And there's a lot of guys that I can see there's almost 500 people that's logged in at the moment and who's listening to our chat. A lot of stuff has happened. But the best of all, let's start at the beginning, Chris. But you should actually, and that is the day that Donald Trump was inaugurated. That evening he starts signing executive orders. Even before the celebrations was over. Now, the speed with which the things in the United States has developed, you must remember it's still early days now. It's 3 days away from being a month. And he has moved so fast that the opposition, the Democratic Party, can't actually keep up. And they have cut off a lot of the tentacles of the deep state by doing exactly what he has done, stopping USAID, and prevents the Department of Health and those guys from making any announcements, blocking them from announcing another pandemic. And yes, I've been talking a lot about Donald Trump and the election and the inauguration, because I've always said if there's one person that can pull the world back to a bit of normality, it might be Donald Trump. He's not perfect. Nobody of us is perfect. But he did it. Look what happened now in Europe and elsewhere. And within 2 weeks, he hit on South Africa. But South Africa, the people is completely misreading why he's hitting on South Africa. And maybe, but yeah. What was your idea or impression?
Well, I agree 100% with you there. In fact, I've been now, for those who don't know, I actually was, if I'm not the first, I'd be surprised. I had this little conversation about not being the first, but President Trump announced that on a Friday evening, and within a couple of hours, I was live streaming. I went live, and I broadcast for 4.5 hours talking about the impact of this, reading the executive order, which I maintain here on the desk the whole time. And I pointed out the two actions here. The two actions are specifically that the United States will cease future foreign aid to South Africa because of its actions. And the second is offering a refugee resettlement program to a class of people who are racially discriminated against. Those two things actually are internal U.S. actions. They're not South Africa. There's no pressure on South Africa. There's not a demand here in South Africa to change any laws or any behavior. No, nothing of the sort. So this article or this executive order, people fail to see what's obvious in here. Now, I've been warning, and ironically, Wynand, before he did that, I had put out a video and saying, ANC, please don't piss off Donald Trump. Just hours before he put the 5 hours before he did executive order, I made a video, I posted it. It said, just stop it. Stop, talking about this. Just don't piss off Trump because the hammer will be coming. And then 5 hours later, he did it. But in the executive order, he talks about the policies designed to prevent equal opportunity in employment, education, and business, as well as hateful rhetoric and government actions fueling disproportionate violence against racially disfavored folks. But then the two pieces that are missed. Now, some academics have caught on. I think they watched my program because I've been saying this since the beginning, but only in the past week have they caught on. They mention Israel and the International Court of Justice case. Usually anti-Semites who hate Jews bring that topic up and exclusively focus on it. But the one that people should really be paying attention to that stands out, the fact that they mention this in an unclassified executive order, they say very clearly, the president says, reinvigorating its relations with Iran to develop commercial, military, and nuclear arrangements. What in the world is South Africa's government doing working with a terrorist state of Iran on nuclear technology? This is unacceptable. Now, the fact that he said that in an unclassified document should have sent terror through the hearts of the ANC, but either they're too stupid to read the room or they're just too arrogant and just ignore it. But it's well beyond that, Vane. I got a whole list of slides of several of the egregious offenses, the Lady R, the fact that the South Africans sponsored People's Liberation Army combat pilots to be trained in South Africa using NATO and former U.S. pilots in violation of U.S. law, and the list goes on and on and on from there. And all we've done is we haven't sanctioned South Africa. We haven't punished it. There's no sanctions. We didn't withdraw South Africa from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which, frankly, it isn't qualified for. So there's been no punitive action. Look at the response. And what is the response? Well, Donald Trump doesn't understand. Nil doesn't mean zero. I'm sorry. I think he understands. And they want to send a delegation here to tell Trump how he's wrong. I don't think that's going to go very well. So my reading is that it's about a lot more than the Afrikaner minority or Boers.
Yes.
It's about those geostrategic issues where they've harmed our national interests. And what I've pointed out repeatedly is it's not just now. This has been building for a long time. In February of last year, a bipartisan group in Congress, Democrats, Republicans, came together with a federal law, a bill, to force a reassessment of the bilateral relationship with South Africa and to freeze assistance to South Africa. Now, that didn't get signed because the Democratic Senate refused to sign it and send it to President Biden. But now it's a Republican House and Senate. And if South African politicians keep insulting America and amping up the rhetoric, the pain is going to come very soon. It's about a lot more than Afrikaners.
Yeah, Chris, it was interesting to me when Donald Trump started talking about Greenland, the Panama Canal, yeah, what's the right word, yeah. And then also about Canada. And it's all about the sea routes. First, the Arctic sea route, which Russia is now opening up, and then the Panama Canal, through which the American ships must pass unhindered, and as a priority. It is as if he's opening up his not just for doing business, his merchant fleet, but also military movements. And South Africa is the southern tip of Africa, which all play a big role in the Cape Sea route. So I think that South Africa was from the beginning, since the Lady R was appearing for the first time, etc., in the Cape, South Africa was slowly but surely moving into the crosshairs of the strategic war game that needs to be played. And I agree with you that it's about the support for the Palestinians. It's about the international court in The Hague, and they have been paid by Iran. That money has flowed through to South Africa, solved their problems, and they did that without thinking. And I think it was Marco Rubio or one of those guys who said South Africa must align itself with the foreign policy of the United States in terms of, or in respect of, Israel, Iran, and China. That is the big thing. The fact that they put now sanctions and possibly AGOA that will go in September, and the question of the taking of the land, as well as the BEE that we find in South Africa. You know, that's very much in line with the DEI that is happening elsewhere in the world, and the staunch attitude that the new government in America is portraying in terms of DEI. Even Ted Cruz said, but South Africa is deliberately alienating the United States of America, making them angry, exactly what you have said now, because they persist in their policies of supporting the wrong people on the globe, all the terrorist organizations and stuff that goes with it. So the rest that has come with it is just to add more pressure and to tell the ANC, listen, we are going to make certain decisions for you if you can't make it. Or we are going to get rid of you. And if we have to get rid of you, we will do it by whatever means. The fact that they offer for South Africans to move to the United States, which I think is great for those that want to go, but I think the majority of us prefer to stay right here where we are. And I also think it's a waste of time to jump on an airplane, fly to Washington and trying to smooth everything over. I don't think they are going even to get within 10 miles from the capital or the White House. So they are going on a holiday. Eventually, all the different groups can meet up at a restaurant, have a coffee together, but they are going to achieve nothing. In that respect, the march towards the embassy on Saturday in support of what Donald Trump has said, that was a good thing. That memorandum will reach Trump. He will see the footage of the people. That will be more successful than any delegation that's being sent abroad. Because you know how the structure works. It comes from the bottom up. You got channels of command to follow. You don't walk in on a president. You start with the embassy. And if they give it merit, you will move up, etc. In the process. Yeah, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you. No, I was just waiting for you to finish. Sorry, I can hear you. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that's just my idea. I think that we are pretty much on the same level when it comes to why did it happen and the provocation from South African side. And Donald Trump is now playing hardball. I mean, look how he's slashing Europe, Ukraine, everything in his path. He's just slashing them and put up tariffs. And he's telling Canada, you can become the 51st state. He's telling Mexico, listen, you are not, the sea is not the Gulf of Mexico anymore, it's the Gulf of America. So what does the South African government don't understand?
Yeah, I think that's the key point here, Wynand, is that they're completely clueless. I mean, first off, they're moaning about non-existent sanctions and things that America is doing to South Africa that they're not doing, simply stopping money we don't have. You know, even if Trump, he looked at suspending all foreign aid for 90 days for new commitments. It didn't stop current aid, but people lost their minds and said it stopped aid. But the bottom line is America doesn't have the money. Last year, the Biden regime spent $2 trillion in deficit spending. And of that $2 trillion, we gave South African NGOs $500 million. Why are we borrowing money to give to South Africa that we don't have so that our grandchildren can pay debt back? It's twice as much as we borrowed 30 years from today. It's foolhardy to say the least. Finally, an adult has entered the room in politics in America named Donald Trump. You know, all these memes about Trump, about, what he does and doesn't do. He worked at that day at McDonald's on the campaign trail, and then he got in the rubbish truck and drove around. He took out the trash. I think that someone needs to be a cartoon of Donald Trump on one of those big, massive mining bulldozers and just put all the leftists in front of it as he mows over the whole world. But, they aren't getting it. I mean, Trump, Trump and his tariffs, this is coercive diplomacy. Hello, diplomacy is coercion. That's the whole point. You come to the table and you try to coerce your opponent into an agreement that's favorable to you. That's how it works. It's funny how they try to use language, but they're not understanding what Trump is doing. It's working. Panama, China's out of the Belt and Road Initiative at the Panama Canal after a threat of tariffs. Mexico refused to cooperate. Trump threatened tariffs. Suddenly, they send 10,000 Mexican National Guardsmen to patrol the border, and they open up camps on the other side to take back their criminals who invaded our country. Let's see, Colombia, and and I both know, before a military flight takes off from an airfield, it has to have overflight clearance from every country it flies over, plus it has to have landing rights. You can't even go without that, unless you're at war. That's different. So before those C-17s left the United States to fly the Colombians to Colombia, they had approval. What I didn't know is the president himself had actually granted that approval. And then while they're in the air for a political stunt, he's like, nope, they're not landing here. We're not taking them back. And Trump is on the golf course. You can see him pulling his phone out, sending a text message. Next thing you know, it comes out 25% tariffs and visas for all diplomats from Colombia revoked. And if it isn't changed in a week, it's 50% tariffs. Within an hour, Colombia capitulated. Denmark, which has refused to discuss increased security in the North Arctic, in the North Atlantic, around Greenland for years, Trump said, if you don't work with us, we're going to put tariffs on your goods from Denmark. And then he talked about buying Denmark and all this together. Well, suddenly Denmark has committed over $1 billion US buying 3 ships to do Arctic patrols and protect the sea lanes around Greenland. Then Canada. Justin Trudeau capitulated. He just gave up. You know, when Trump threatened tariffs, he surrendered. He's going to resign. And let's go. Now he's talking about taking over Gaza. And suddenly people want to talk about plans for Gaza. Before they just put their hands in the air. What are we going to do? Now Trump says, well, we'll take it over. It'll be the Mar-a-Lago on the Med. And suddenly, and the South African politicians do not get it. They are stubborn and stupid.
You know, Gaza it's plain that if nobody can do something about Gaza, well, I will build a state there. Maybe we should take it and build something and do something there. And all of a sudden, there's now plans popping up all over the world for Gaza.
Yep.
And before that, the whole world was quiet, except condemning, but no solutions. So that's, and of course, you know, because I got a lot of messages every bloody day about don't trust Trump, don't do this, don't do that, and he's just like the rest of them, etc., etc. The point is, at least he is doing something and nobody else is. And what he has done for the first time in, I think, 140 years
Your camera went off.
of white South Africans, it's the first time that a president give a bit of attention to the plight of the Afrikaner, of the Boer here in South Africa. And what I wanted to add, you know, it's a good time to remind Trump and the people that are surrounding him about the Afrikaner Accord before 1994, which was accepted and signed. The right for self-determination is in our constitution. But since 1994, when the ANC came into power, nobody has done a damn thing about it. And we know if we can have our own piece of land, from there we can create jobs, prosperity, at least something. Give us the bloody desert. Give us a Bantustan. We will make it work.
You know, it's interesting. The people that tell you not to trust Trump, I mean, honestly, I think they're just, I don't know these people, but I'm going to say a lot of them are simply fools. I mean, I appreciate their position because Trump didn't do anything in his first term, but this isn't the same man that was president in a previous term. This is a different man who's been nearly assassinated twice. Who has had lawfare used against him. They tried to bankrupt him by taking $500 million of his cash reserves and tried to destroy him, and he's overcome all. This guy is like the Energizer Bunny. And here's the thing about Trump. Hang on. Here's the thing about Trump. He has said he's going to do this, 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 and this. And since the moment he's come in office, he's done this, 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 and everything he promised he's doing. And he's doing it with alacrity, faster than any politician's ever done it. So why would somebody say Trump wouldn't do this? And even if Trump doesn't allow a single Afrikaner or South African to come to America under the refugee program, it doesn't matter from the geostrategic standpoint, because this is what Trump has done. There has been a plaster over the Rainbow Nation concept for 31 years that the ANC is a wonderful party of multiracialism, of capitalism, that it's bringing peace and security and prosperity to all South Africans, black, white, and brown. Well, Donald Trump has ripped that plaster off and exposed the festering, pus-filled wound that is governance under the ANC, racialism and kleptocracy. That is open and taking the blinders off of people who are willing to listen around the world. And suddenly a new day is dawning that South Africans don't even realize that's going to come as a consequence of Trump exposing what's happening in South Africa. Whether he does anything else or not, he's done a great service to South Africans.
Yes, I agree with you. You know, I've read somewhere quite recently, a day or two ago, that Donald Trump actually prepared, since he lost the previous election, he studied how the government, the deep state, and everything operates in the US. His team said, well, if we want to be successful, we will have to do this, we will have to do that, we will have to do this, that. So it was already planned even before he was in office. And another important thing, he has surrounded himself with relative young people. Look at J.D. Vance. And how strong did he come through on that Munich speech of him? Yeah, I loved it. You know, we in South Africa have forgotten how a strong and a real leader should sound. Okay, but we haven't experienced one in the past 40 years. But anyway, the point is, the day that he is not there anymore or available for another term to serve, or something happened to him, the course is already set. He's working his ass off to ensure that a course is set that cannot be turned around by his death. If they try to take him out once again, if something happens to him, J.D. Vance is fully capable of continuing on this road. Now, I don't say that's what's going to happen. I say that is a very good thing, that he hasn't surrounded himself with a lot of old guys that got stuck in the thoughts of the past and how it should work. He got young minds in to think progressively but conservative and keep the values of our people intact, or restore it at least to what it should be.
Well, the irony here is that Trump is 78 years old and he's moving like he's 18 years old, and people can't keep pace with him. Oh, here comes your coffee. Yeah, so so he's moving like an 18-year-old at a pace that people can't keep up with. And frankly, from just before he was inaugurated until a few days ago, I was getting virtually no sleep. It's like being back in the bush in combat, where I'm getting 15-minute cat naps a couple times a day trying to keep up with Trump, because him in South Africa. But the thing about Trump is that you're right. He's making it a system that will survive him, and he's smart about this. And what's also interesting is that Trump is trying new ideas, things that people aren't willing to consider. And aren't old people supposed to be stuck in their ways and stubborn and not appreciate change? But here's what's happening. And you and I briefly discussed this last night. I know for a fact this must be the case. Well, I don't know for a fact, but I presume for a fact that the Trump team spent the 4 years out of office preparing for this day when they came in office. And when they hit the ground, they had a binder. Day one, Executive Order 1, 2, 3, 4, statement, pardon, release, this, that, and that. Day one, okay, day one's over. Watch the press reel from that. Day two, here's the events, here's the executive orders. Day three, and they're going to go about 90 days of doing this, and then they're going to make sure that they implement all the things they put in place. That's what's going on. Now, also, they knew that the left would not go away quietly. They would use lawfare to try to challenge them in court. And Trump has even made that challenging for the left. They have so many things to challenge in court that they're going to bankrupt themselves with legal fees trying to fight Trump. And the shoe is on the other foot now. When conservatives were out of power, we were demonized, we were attacked, the Constitution was violated by the oppressive state, threatening lawsuits, bankrupting people, spending legal fees to defend themselves when they committed no crime. Well, now the shoe is on the other foot, except the government isn't going after individuals. It's putting in place policies and trying to change laws. And the left wants to fight that. In order to fight that, they're going to have to drain their coffers and spend all their money. And meanwhile, while they're focusing on Trump stopping genetic or biological males from going in the bathroom with girls and playing sports teams, Trump is over here redesigning Gaza and getting tariffs on China to get them to lower their tariffs. You know, people don't realize how much the world abuses America. They talk about us being abusing. But Europe ships its cars to America for 2.5% tariffs. So you can buy a Mercedes or BMW with just 2.5% tax added. But when a Cadillac or a Ford or a GM product goes to Europe, it's 10%. How is that fair? That's 400% of the tariff we have. And the same thing in South Africa. We give South Africa duty-free access under AGOA for most products. We get no such reciprocity. And we didn't ask for it. So when we sent poultry there, they slapped a 75% tariff on us. Now, that's frankly just morally wrong. And Trump is not going to put up with it anymore. So we'll see what happens. But Trump is moving like an 18-year-old. Look, it's like Ali. It's like the Thriller in Manila. It's the rumble in the jungle. Float like a butterfly, and Trump is stinging like a bee. No, he is stinging like a hammer, and he is smacking the left.
Yeah. No, but I love it, and of course we will keep a close eye on what is happening. And the other day he threatened Hamas if the hostages are not being released, and immediately another 3 was released, and I just saw that another 3 is being released. So, his strong arm tactics seem to work currently. I'm a bit worried about what is going to happen in Ukraine and Russia. It looks as if there is already success at this stage. I know that there's an American delegation on their way to Saudi Arabia, and the Russian delegation to Saudi Arabia to start the initial talks after the telephone conversation that Donald Trump had with Putin. It's now just interesting that Zelensky jumped on a plane to the United Arab Emirates. To do what?
I don't know what he's going to do in the Arab Emirates except go on holiday, because Trump is not going to tolerate his nonsense.
Yeah, because he wants to continue the war, and actually he's now pushing to draw Trump into a war. And Peter Hedgett said it nicely the other day. If you continue with the support to Ukraine, it will not be under the flag of NATO. Article 5 won't be revoked. You will do it on your own, and no Americans on the ground. That was a very strong statement. And of course, when J.D. Vance 2 days ago told the Munich Safety Conference that, listen, Russia is not your problem. And China is also not your problem. Your problem is you yourself. Inside, you are destroying Europe yourself from inside. Now, nobody in the past 4 decades has talked to Europe leaders like J.D. Vance did the other night. And they are shocked, they are angry, they try to make it off as nothing. But then, when you start listening to the voices that wasn't heard in the past coming out now, you realize that people say that address from J.D. Vance will go down in history as one of the greatest ever. It's going to change Europe.
I think it is. And J.D. Vance was, from their perspective, not diplomatically polite, but frankly, Europe needed a PK. It was time for someone to smack them upside the head. Their green energy zealotry and religion, their stupidity in allowing millions, tens of millions of illegal aliens flood the country. Now we have all kinds of crime problems all over the place, not to mention the social burden on people. It's insane. And now on top of that, we have the censorship regime that's prevalent in Germany and in the United Kingdom in particular, where people, a 18-year-old British kid standing on a street corner with a British flag, not participating in demonstration, was incarcerated for a year for carrying a British flag. They called it a symbol of hate. How can the flag of the United Kingdom be a symbol of hate flying in the United Kingdom? It wasn't like they went to Zimbabwe and flew it over Harare. This kid had it in the street. And then we have this German woman who was incarcerated for 2 years because she called rapist. They were convicted rapists and she called them rapists. But because they're from Afghanistan, they sent her to jail for 2 years. What kind of nonsense is this? The Europe has lost its mind. They got what they deserved, and they deserve a lot more. And I'll tell you what, Trump is going to bring it to them. And if these leftists don't reform their act, then real governments like those of Pierre Orban and one in Poland are going to wake them up one day, because these fat, lazy, cozy, comfortable, useless leftist turd balls that run France, United Kingdom. Look at Keir Starmer, that fascist in chief. Norway, Denmark, not the Netherlands, they've gone right. The ascension of the center and center right is rising, and these people will be swept aside, and they will be castigated in the annals of history for their foolishness and the damage they've done to their countries.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, we know how it feels not being allowed to wave a flag, even if it's an old flag. In South Africa, you pick up problems on that one as well. But I agree with you. I mean, Tommy Robinson, the guy they've put up in jail because he made a couple of comments on social media, because he was one who stands up and say, listen, we can't allow this immigration to continue. We can't allow the British culture to disappear. But the question I have for you guys, why? Why is George Soros still a free man? Why is all those guys not being hammered? Or do you think there will be an in-depth investigation in the US about who was behind all this trouble?
I don't think they're going to go that route. I am much more interested at the moment in going after people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who are violating federal statutes by encouraging criminal alien invaders to evade and violate and hide from federal officials and undermining public safety. Also, those in the FBI who've been leaking the raids that are taking place to go after criminals, they're endangering public safety. Instead of the police and officials being able to go make a raid without anyone being tipped off in the dark and safely arrest these people and apprehend them when they're, you know how it is when you do special forces, you don't go into a building in the middle of the day unless you have no choice. You go in cover of darkness when people are disoriented, they're sleeping, whatever, and you take them, and then there's less violence, less people hurt. But what happens is when some idiot tips them off and then the cops come, there tends to be shooting and the public can be wounded or injured, and not to mention law enforcement officers. These people are criminals, and anyone, including government officials and sitting members of Congress who do that, should be incarcerated. I think that's going to be the focus of Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, now in the next 3 months, going after these people. And it should send a message, fire a shot across the bow, that if you violate federal law, the party's over. This tolerance, this sanctuary city, which is an illegal act, sanctuary states, is going to end. These people who do that will not be getting federal funding. Those people who engage in DEI will not be getting federal funding. And they've become so dependent on the government teat that they're going to learn the hard way. But I think Soros is going to escape. He's in the 80s. Nothing's going to happen to him. But this regime of lawlessness is coming to an end. Law and order is back in fashion here in America, and it's about damn time. I wish we had law and order in South Africa, but we all know we don't. And we see the death of Captain Toit yesterday as an example of that. It's terrible.
Yeah. But I did saw something today, earlier, about the Rothschilds. Said, well, Trump is a danger to the world because he's going to destroy the one world order. Globalism is going to be destroyed, which I feel is a good thing, because we got all our own cultures, nationalism, our pride, and we want to live that out, patriotism. But to make it all a mix-up where there's no proud left, that's the end of any nation. And if Donald Trump did not win this election, it would have been the end of the world as we knew it.
Yeah, 100%. That was my fear, is that somehow they steal this election from him and the world would collapse and fall up in the ball that they want. It would be like one of those dystopian Hollywood movies where we see in the future where, you get credits or you're limited to moving around here and there. That's where we were headed. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you being here. This is our Fireside with the Colonels. It's a a episodic program that we do. Colonel Wynand, Toit, and myself, we do this now and then. We talk about sometimes war stories, about our experiences, sometimes geopolitics, or current events, things that are happening. That's what we're doing today. If you haven't hit that like button, there's over 1,067 people currently watching. Stop being a freeloader. No one charged you to watch this broadcast. No one's begging for money to super chats in here, although you're welcome to do it. All we ask is, it's you engage in a positive, polite, friendly manner and hit the like button.
That was easy.
Because those two things drive viewership. And the more people that comment in the chat, the more people that hit the like or dislike, if you're so inclined, that will draw more people to the chat and more people expose this conversation and watch this broadcast. So we thank you for being here. We do this infrequently. Both of us are pretty busy with other responsibilities. And so I think you've been in Angola recently. And so that took up a lot of your time. And so here we are talking about these issues now. But I mean, there's so many things for us to talk about, U.S., the world, South Africa that's been happening. But what's fascinating to me is that South Africa has moved forward with breakneck pace. Even though the ANC doesn't have a majority in government, they teamed up with the Democratic Alliance and they've passed legislation that they've been desperate to get in place for ages. The Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, which takes authority away from local school boards. It also can imprison parents for children being truant, not going to school. And then many other problems with that. Forcing English as the first language of instruction in school for 94% of children in South Africa who that is not their first language, including Xhosa, Venda, Afrikaners, Portuguese, Zulu. And then on top of that, then came the so-called 3% corporate black tax. Parks Tau proposed a program in which the government will create a slush fund of 100 billion rand by taking 3% of after-tax profits from corporations to give to black businesses based on their skin pigmentation. And we all know that a lot of that money is going to go in the pockets of the ANC instead of to businesses. That's morally wrong. And now the expropriation without compensation bill has been passed, which is wholly unnecessary. Section 25 of South Africa's Constitution allows for expropriation with compensation. The government has purchased 3.9 million hectares of land under that program, and their program of distributing it has been very poor. This is a tool that will be used to persecute political opponents of the state. For instance, they could come after somebody for saying something they didn't like, and they take your property. People keep losing sight of this. Afrikaners and Boers keep losing sight. They're talking about land. Yes, land is a component, but this is property. Your pension funds, your Bucky, your Krugerrands, your house, your everything is property. They can take any of it. And that's what's quite frightening to me, Wynand, is that the South Africans, I think a lot have missed the boat on this. This is about political oppression and a tool that the government of the day, whether it's the ANC or the DA, whoever, will misuse this tool at the national, provincial, and local level. Imagine the mayor of Uppington coming and demanding your house because they need it for a community center. It's in the public interest. And they expropriate it because you don't want to sell it for nothing. And then you go to court and it's a court appointed by the state, or you get an arbitrator appointed by the state. Who do they owe their loyalty to? The state who pays them, not to you, the victim. It's pretty scary. What are your thoughts on any of that? That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I first want to start off with something else. I was reading the Sunday Times yesterday because there's no more Afrikaans newspaper like a Report used to be. So even in Uppington now, we only receive the Sunday Times. But Agri SA, who is representing the majority of farmers in South Africa, now, I call them papsucker because they are fucking used up. They are useless. Not normally useless. Okay? But the guy say, and I'm going to quote, losing Angola because of disinformation fed to the US President Donald Trump by right-wing Afrikaner lobby group AfriForum. This is what the CEO of Agri SA is saying. But even he don't have the insight to realize what it's truly about, as we have talked earlier. Now, here he says, there have been no land seizures, no confiscation of private property, no expropriations without compensation, none. And to link farm murderers to the genocide of white farmers is bizarre. It's not true. This is what Agri SA is saying to an English newspaper. And there it is. There you can see the popsack sitting. The point is, I've talked about it, I think last week, Friday, yeah. And I told the guys, the people, a story of a guy that owns a house in a estate in a rural town. And what he did is he built on 2 rooms at the back of his house. So now he become a guest house. So the municipality lifted his value, his proper value, from 2 million to 6.4 million. His rates and taxes gone up from 1,500 Rand a month to over 10,000 Rand a month. Just after COVID, he don't have the money to pay. He declared a dispute, and when you declare a dispute, according to the law, they are not allowed to continue adding up. And taxes adding up, interest adding up as well. So then they say, well, you didn't pay that account, so now we are cutting your electricity. The next thing, day later they arrived and they cut his water supply. So now he can't have guests anymore at his place. So it is a guest house, commercial property, according to the municipality, that is now being unused. So if you go to the Splura law, say that if it is an unused property for the purpose it is developed, you can take it. If it is in the interest of the people, you can take it or expropriate it. Now they can say, well, the 500,000 Rand, which is now in arrears on that property, it is in the interest of the people that the house being taken and sold to the benefit of the people. And because the property is not used for what it is now designated according to the municipality, it gives them the right to take that house. And there's nothing that that guy can do. He don't have the money to go to court, nothing. And then the floodgates sort of opened with people sending me emails about how they have lost their land, how they have lost their properties. And they are using, Rob is one of them. You know Rob.
Yeah.
Rob is one of the guys who is along the same lines, has lost these properties. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's not only about agricultural land. It's about everything.
Yep, it's about everything.
So they can walk up and say, well, this church here got space for 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. But you only got 50 people coming on a Sunday to this church. So it's not being used fully and properly. So we are going to take this building away. That is the danger that we are facing in South Africa. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? And that's why Donald Trump's intervention in South Africa, because of the attitude or the stupidity of the ANC or the government of national unity, his intervention might save this shit from going down.
No, 100%. Sorry, I'm paying attention to the chat. I'm just going to do a little housekeeping here. I'm going to admonish people right now who are in the chat. First off, don't come on my program and make false assertions and put words in my mouth I've never stated. If you're too lazy to watch my content, then futsek. You don't need to be here. And stop attention seeking. I see someone over here keeps putting the same thing, asking my definition. I'm not going to address your stupidity. piss off or you're going to be blocked. Quit putting nonsense in the chat because you're attention seeking. If you wanted that definition, you would go watch the 14 questions that are most frequently asked video that I made. The fact you're too lazy to do that shows you just a troll. Since my mods haven't given that person a smacking, they don't have to give him a smacking, but knock it off. Number one. Number two, it does not matter what you say an Afrikaner is, and it does not matter what I say an Afrikaner is. It only matters what an official under guidance from the State Department of Homeland Security determine an Afrikaner is. If they say that's a three-legged gemsbok, then a three-legged gemsbok is an Afrikaner and can migrate to America under the refugee program. So stop the horse shit and start paying attention. And by the way, I called out Agri SA on February 7th with a video the first time he opened his mouth up there, Kotze, and made this nonsense. It is a captured organization that misrepresents the facts, and it is vile and disgusting, their nonsense. You know, my channel is not representative of all Afrikaners or all Boers or all white South Africans or all coloreds. It's not. A lot of people come here who have a right or center-right view of the world, and that's fine because that's where I come from and what I'm pushing. But the surveys, I do a poll every night and every day, and I've gotten as many as 5,000 people answering my poll. And in the first poll I did, we had almost 5,000. 69% said they would take Trump up on the immigration offer. So let's just go with that. So of 5,000, I had 4,000 people on the first night that I talked about this who said they were interested. That's 4,000. And every night it's been around 60 to 70%. Last night it was 85%. And this was without even knowing any details. So I don't think many people are going to leave. But for people like Agri SA and the Democratic Alliance and others to claim that nobody's interested in leaving is disingenuous. And it's highly insulting to the poor and to people to say, well, the only people to go are the poor, those who failed, who blame the rules working against them. There will be people with a great deal of wealth who also take this golden ticket opportunity up. I hope that a lot of people don't feel the need. And whatever happens, the Afrikaner and Afrikaans and Boer communities will survive because they always survive these sorts of things. When the Boer War ended, some went to Argentina and Kenya, but most stayed despite the horrific things that happened. And I think the same thing is going to be the case here. But it's disingenuous and dishonest to claim that there's nobody interested, that no one is going to go, because I'm telling you, I have had a few million views in the past 2 weeks from people, and overwhelmingly people want to know how to get out. And again, it's not a representative sample, but even if I'm the only program where people that want to leave have actually addressed, then we're already talking tens of thousands of South Africans who want to get out, black, white, and colored, who want to take advantage of this program. So these people are just liars. Okay. All right. There you go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. We don't have the right. Nobody got the right to tell somebody what to do.
Right.
For many people, this is a God-sent gift. Because to go to the United States are extremely difficult. Okay, except if you are one of those scavengers that's coming across the southern border. But I think if I've tried to go across the southern border, I've probably been being locked up because my color is wrong. The point I want to make now, as far as that, it's so difficult to emigrate to any other country for a white South African. Here comes a government. They say, well, you are welcome as refugees. But remember, if you are a refugee, it doesn't mean that you can have a criminal record.
Correct.
Be accepted. There will be conditions applied. They will check you out. You won't be released day one into the United States. They will probably keep you in a sort of a FEMA camp for a couple of weeks until they've processed everything. Maybe not a FEMA camp, but maybe something else. Until you are sort of processed and legalized into the United States. If they are not going to do that here before the people left. But remember, for many people, there's no work in South Africa. How many of our young farmers are in the United States?
Thousands.
Working there.
Thousands.
Thousands. For them, in this ideal situation, so that they can at least take their families there legally as well. No one in South Africa got the right to talk for everybody.
Yep.
We have seen that I think it was AgriForum and Solidariteit that said, well, we speak for the Afrikaners, and we won't leave, and we will stay, all that. That was an unnecessary statement. Say thank you for the opportunity, because there is less privileged people who need to go out. And you must remember, as a refugee, you are not thrown into the United States out on the street without a support system. Yeah. There is a support system. There is sort of money available to get you started again. So you're not going here in South Africa. If you are down and out, nobody is interested in helping you. Nobody is going to support you. But at least if you go there, there's hope. There's hope for a new life. Now, I've said many times the past couple of days that I'm not going anywhere. And most of my people is not going anywhere. But I won't stand in the way of a person that wants to go. You know, to being said, well, if you are leaving, you are a coward, you are fleeing from the situation. That is wrong. Because are you going to help this guy to survive in South Africa?
Yep.
No, nobody is going to help him.
Yep, that's a video I made a couple of days ago, exactly that. But there's several people in the chat saying they're not poor, that they're wealthy, and some saying they're multimillionaires or millionaire, dollar millionaires. That's awesome, and I'm happy for you, but I don't believe any of it because there's no super chats coming, Wynand. If these rich people are in the chat, they can super chat. But exactly. No, but the other day I made a video and I said the following. I said, if you are taking issue with South Africans who want to take up this offer and come to America and you're rubbishing them, shut your mouth. Because you don't know their circumstances. You don't know the situation. You weren't there when their daughter was raped. You weren't there when their home was burglarized. You weren't there when they were shot or stabbed. You weren't denied a loan. You weren't prevented from getting a bursary university. You weren't kicked out of your job. You don't know the circumstances. For someone who has what they need in life to survive, to tell someone else about their circumstances, shut your mouth. In German, we say Halt's Maul, which is a very rude statement because a Maul is a mouth on a dog. Halt's Maul, shut your mouth. And by the same token, if you're leaving, and you're like, the people are staying are fools, shut your mouth. Because South Africa is their home. And they will fight to survive as best they can. You must make a decision for yourself, individually. But as Wynand has just said, for the first time ever, someone is recognizing the plight of South Africans. And however it's defined, however it's divided, no one can legitimately deny that there are not laws that prevent equal opportunity in employment, in education, and business. The government segregates half the economy out of the hands of people who do not have dark skin pigmentation through BEE. Half the economy is government. Half of it. And you cannot participate. And that is even worse because as a subcontractor, oftentimes the contractors who have the contract with the government then demand that you comply with BEE even though you're not required to. So you're cut out of even more of the economy. So this is just nonsense. People that don't want to recognize the truth and need to get over themselves. And by the way, someone just got a timeout. More of you get a timeout if you misbehave in the chat. Stop saying things that are untrue, that you don't know about me. You haven't watched the content. It's pretty obvious. Learn what you're talking about. Sit here and tell me I don't know what an Afrikaner is. You don't know what you're talking about. That's a fact. Pay attention. It doesn't matter what I define Afrikaner. It doesn't matter what you define Afrikaner. It's what the U.S. government defines. And the ethnic minorities, his convoluted scene, so what? Ethnic minorities are also discriminated against. You think colored people are treated the same as black South Africans? You're dreaming. If you think Indians are treated the same as black South Africans, you're dreaming. Wake up and smell the coffee.
Because I was, in 2017, I was invited by the South African Military Veterans Organization of Australia to visit them and to address the folks in what is the place name? But it's on the eastern side of the southeastern side of Australia, and then also after that I went to Perth. And those people, by their traditions which they stick to, some of them are more positive not positive about the future of South Africa, but positive in their attitude that they want to assist and they want to help. So if people goes to the United States or to Australia or New Zealand or wherever they go, like we do, SBB got a huge number of support from the from different countries where South Africans is based. They support financially. They're using their influence. Wherever they can put a bit of pressure or at least represent your cause for what you are standing for in South Africa. So I see people that is leaving almost as the investment sort of in our own future for those that remains behind in South Africa. And one day they can return. And they should not return in shame. They should return with respect, received with love and care and everything. Because if they are overseas for a better life for their kids and their grandkids, but they do support us. They are ambassadors for us. Then it's still good and positive.
That's a good point, which I think a lot of people have lost sight of. But there are challenges to being a refugee, and we're not going to get into those today. We'll save that for my other conversations. Let me deal with a couple of super chats. People actually have put some super chats in here now. LT Ghost said the problem is that we do not have someone to take the lead in the situation because we also do not need a far-right leader that wants to declare war. Well, I don't know, LT Ghost, where you're getting that idea from. I'm not aware of people that want to start a war. This is silly. He also said, but thank you for the super chat. We're not there yet, but if we cannot get our own community in order, then I don't see a future for me and my family. So LT Ghost is also concerned. Nick gave a 35 Rand super chat telling Arctic not to be so stingy because he earns in dollars. And Swarks just gave a 35 Rand super sticker. Thank you for that because he thought that was funny. That is funny. Anyway, but and then we're getting some more here. Zemi Volmerans gave 9 Rand. LT Ghost, I was referring to Eugene Terre Blanche that was far right. Well, Eugene Terre Blanche was murdered years ago. That he's not around anymore. So I'm not sure who these ultra-right leaders are that want a war. Most people have no desire for that. Those of us who are actual soldiers who've served in combat, like Wynand and myself, we know the horrors of war, and we're the last people that want conflict. You know, we've seen up close. We've lost comrades. We've lost soldiers alongside ourselves, and we've seen the horrific things that happen. We don't want it, and that's the last thing we want. And that's why, you know, Wynand, you were talking earlier about Trump. And what Trump is really displaying is true leadership, visionary leadership, forward thinking, the future, not now, not 5 minutes from now. And you know, we've both seen very good leaders in uniform. We've had the fortune that we both served in real militaries, genuine militaries with discipline, order, who had a national mission, who focused. Not my army that became my two moms. Please join the army for transgenderism. That's not the army that I was in. Now that's going away, but that was under Biden. So maybe we're restoring America to America's military. But we both served in real militaries with real leaders who we could look up to and we could see. And we also saw poor leaders. And the problem is that in politics in particular, but also in every aspect of life, in the corporate world, we have capitulators who will do what they have to get along so they're comfortable and wealthy at the expense of everyone else. And they don't care. That's in corporate world. Look at South African businesses. Why are South African businesses so quiet about BEE? Why are they so quiet? Because they're complicit in it. Why are they so? Because it hurts small businessmen and entrepreneurs. They don't care about the big corporations. They're set. They make their money. And they're quiet about EWC because they think they're going to escape EWC. But I have a lesson for you. It's called Zimbabwe. You think you can control this? This spirals out of control very fast, and it all falls apart. So good luck with that, the white monopoly capital that Bell Pottinger called you. Good luck with that. One more super chat. L. Estosin says, Colonel Wynand, what's the probability of civil war in South Africa? 70 Rand he gave. What are your thoughts on civil war? Any thoughts on
that? Chris, yes, of course. I want to start off when you said no soldier wants war. I agree, 100%. And I've also jokingly many times said, if countries was governed by soldiers, there won't be wars because of that reason. But that's a bit tongue in the cheek. The point is we don't want war. But if we have no choice other than to fight, we will. But it's not our first choice to fight. But if it comes to us, we will fight to protect our families, our friends, and our people. We will have to do that. That's a conscious decision that everyone that stays behind in South Africa will have to take at some or other time, because it is a realistic thing that can happen. We don't know who is the big players. We have an idea. But I still think there's people pushing for racial violence in South Africa, which won't start off as racial violence, but it will start off by being instigated into violence, which will flow over. And then if there's total anarchy in the government and the police services, and I mean the few good policemen are too few to control the whole country, and the military that is just lost up there in the north in Goma, they are not going to be capable to protect us. So yes, in that case, we will enter a civil war. And we are fairly close to that civil war, because the ANC will not relent power. We will have problems. They might relate it to the MK party in a joint sort of government, another government of national unity. But I think in the end, if things keep on spiraling out of control, money-wise, the fact that they can't pay SASSA, a world that is changing their attitude towards the ANC, we will end up in a civil war. And then we must be ready and organized for that. If it doesn't happen, we are grateful. Say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lord, it did not happen. But if it happens, we must be ready. And that is the point, because what is happening nowadays in South Africa was not even an idea in 1994. If we look at what is happening now, look at how the situation has deteriorated in South Africa. Look now that there is attention from the rest of the world on South Africa, how quick things can spiral out of control. And my question to everyone that is listening to this
broadcast stream,
broadcast stream, yeah, who is listening to this must realize that if you are not prepared, if you are not going to prepare, form part of a larger group, be prepared to sacrifice certain things, certain luxuries, places where you are. You won't stand a chance. If we look at what happened in Zimbabwe, talk to the farmers there who have left. One day, they were there, when they arrived at one farm, all the farmers arrived to assist. They went away. And then the next day, they arrived at all the different farms. So which farm are you protecting? Are you going to leave your farm to go to another place to help? Or are you going to stand alone? And that's the things that we must be realistic about. And that's what made me so bloody angry about the papsucker at Agri SA, who is not thinking, we think their money, because they are mega farmers, their money is going to save them. When people are angry, when they are hungry, when they are thirsty, see it against the backdrop of our water infrastructure that is busy crumbling beneath our feet. The sewage systems are gone. Electricity barely survives. So somewhere it's going to happen, especially if there's no money.
Yep, and there isn't any money. That's the problem. The infrastructure's collapsed. Escom, Transnet, the roads, the ports, the rails. It's just a disaster across the board of epic proportions. The money that should have been invested in maintaining it was pilfered or misused, and money for a new expansion often not there. Let me deal with a couple more super chats here very quickly. Nick Groves says, finger error, 14 Rand. Fox Mulder gave $20 US, said, glad to have found your channel. Appreciate that you obviously know your stuff. Don't suffer fools and yet still have a great sense of humor. Well, thank you for that, Fox. I think that's all true, and I appreciate your kind words. I definitely don't suffer fools, and I also don't play games and parse. I'm honest about where I'm at, and I'm honest about what I talk about, and I'm objective. Look, we're all biased. Everyone has their own bias, and I'm biased. This is capitalism's greatest economic system invented by mankind, and representative democracy, a republic, is the best form of governance we've ever come up with. But I'm also honest about the shortcomings of both those systems, and I'm honest about where the challenges are. But you got to be objective. Now, beyond that, we've got Zedma Volmeron said, we vote Colonel Chris for office. Well, I wish you could have voted in Pennsylvania last year. I spent all my life savings trying to run for office, and I lost. And I could have used your vote, but you're not allowed to vote here in Pennsylvania. And then we had another one down here, I think, just a moment. Low IQ gave 20 Australian dollars, said, keep it up, Colonels. Well, we're trying. That's why we do this. But it's been a while since we had a chance to chat. But maybe we'll get a chance to do more frequently, what with all the events unfolding. The Agri-SDA thing really torqued me off, too. I was really irritated by that whole thing because they are representing a group of people that isn't everybody, and they run their mouths as if they represent everybody. Now, I saw that people attacked Solidarity Not Reform, making false claims because the newspaper falsely reported what they said in their press conference. They said that AfriForum and Solidarity said that no one's going to leave. We're discouraging people from leaving. That is not what happened. I watched the press conference after the fact, and a lot of people came in my chat were angry. I've unsubscribed from AfriForum. They don't speak for me. They didn't claim to speak for you. They only speak for the constituents who are interested in staying, and they're not anyway. So let's not trust legacy media. Let's get the reality that you got to pay attention and think for yourself, because too many people go to News 24, read what they say, and just take it at face value when most of what they put up is nothing but propaganda. I, every day, rubbish News 24 stories and report the factual errors and then the intentional omissions in their stories to mislead people. And the story right now is that the fact that nobody in South Africa in the media is talking about Iran, nuclear cooperation. Are you serious? This is a serious concern for the United States and the world. Nuclear cooperation by the ANC with Iran? How is that overlooked? It's intentional because they don't want you to see what's happening. And this is dangerous. Y'all got to wake up. 360 at 46. Welcome for your membership. All right, Wynand, back to you.
Yes, going back to Iran, I think the biggest problem for Iran currently to complete their nuclear program and to have the bomb is probably enriched uranium. They don't have. But South Africa had enough enriched uranium for 6 bombs, and that has been melted down and is being stored in the Circle building near Pretoria. So South Africa has enough enriched uranium which they can sold probably to Iran, smuggle it out. Nobody would be wiser. 80% of South Africans don't even know that we used to have nuclear weapons. Nobody is going to ask questions. And Iran got all this enriched uranium. And then they got the bomb. So I think the warning about the nuclear cooperation is a very, very serious situation. The two of us talked about what was on the Lady R some time ago, and I told you what I think was on the Lady R and what my sources say, what was loaded up. It made sense. And I think when we talk about this, of course, the CIA will know about that enriched uranium. But you know what? It's now how many years? 30 years later. Those enriched uranium has been lying there. People have departed. Nobody is actually watching it anymore. Easy to let it disappear. There's no accountability in South Africa for millions that disappear. Why would there be accountability for enriched uranium, which 99% of the people don't even know how it looks like? So, yeah, that is a big problem. I saw one of your guys, Henry Jacobs, said, what about the land grabs at the moment? And I actually just quickly, Henry, I've caught it here on my cell phone. There is, in fact, over the past couple of days, quite a couple of land grabs that is happening. But what they are doing, they move in very quickly and they put up 100 shacks. And the owner lost that land because nobody is going to take them away or take them off. You have to go to court. It costs you a lot of money, everything that goes with it. So land grabs is actually in progress in South Africa. And the government, Agri-SA, and all those guys can deny it as much as they want.
No, they're absolutely, they're full of it. I mean, I reported on Sishecho in Polokwane, Petersburg, where this has been happening. It's been unfolding. Even SABC was on the scene interviewing people, but then they never followed up because the government wouldn't let them. You know, it's state-owned media. They reported, and they're like, well, we're taking the land because Ramaphosa signed the law. And we're expropriating it for public purpose. This is disused land. We don't even know who the owner is. So we've already set up stands and people can set up here and this. And we fully expect that we will get the support of the municipality of Polokwane, who will deliver services, roads, schools, clinics, water. These people are delusional, but they're getting away with it, absolutely getting away with it. It's really, really sad to see. Very quickly, before I get to a super chat, Scrooby Newberts said the current form of capitalism is so great. Why are we getting beaten in capitalism by the communists? Well, first off, Scrooby News, your interpretation analysis of economics is flawed. Capitalism is not being beaten by communism. Communists are cheating. Cheaters are winning, and they're not winning in the way you think they are. China is in grave jeopardy. Ecologically, economically, they're suffering immensely. Their economy is stagnating. They're in a lot of trouble. The other communists around the world, Venezuela is a dumpster fire. That communism is not going well. The other communists are Vietnam, and they have adopted many free market reforms, which has allowed their economy to flourish. And beyond that, North Korea is a dead country. There are no real communists beyond that that are in control of governments. There are people claiming. But the bottom line is that capitalism does not exist in its true form anywhere, including the United States. If it did, there would be no subsidies on sugar and sugar beets, sugar cane. There'd be no subsidies on maize to produce ethanol and distort the market outcomes. There would be no punitive taxes on businesses and no favored things like green energy. That is a distortion of the marketplace. True capitalism is supply and demand. If you want it, and you go for it, more people want it, the more expensive it's going to be, the dearer it's going to be. If nobody wants it, it's not worth anything, it's going to be worth less. That is the market balancing itself out. And that's true capitalism. That's what and that was Jan van Driel said, 140 Rand says, I remember in the late 80s, the adults spoke about National Party and Bos and the Broederbond having a greater plan, and Pieck Botha visited the States a lot before the release of Mandela. Is it conspiracy or not? Well, if they had a plan, it really wouldn't matter because the people they would have dealt with are dead and they never implemented it. So I can't say that did or didn't happen. I don't imagine it did, but those people are all long gone. I mean, those of us who are pushing, the towards 60 and beyond were around at that time, but the others who were in charge were in their 80s or 90s at this point, and almost all of them are dead and have no say. So that time has come and gone, and it really doesn't matter. So LT Ghost says, boycott mainstream media because South African news are dictated by NC. Agreed. And Sienta Dutoy, thank you for becoming a member. All right, sorry about that. A little housekeeping there, Vanit. It's necessary.
Yeah. People ask a question about uranium. They say, well, why don't Iran just get uranium from Russia? I think Russia is more responsible than we might think. And it will probably cost a lot more from Russia than it will cost from South Africa. And there's a lot of uranium available in South Africa and also in Namibia. And those uranium mines are all controlled by China. But we must remember one thing: uranium as such is useless unless it's enriched. And that is not an easy process, and it's a lengthy process to enrich enough uranium to build a bomb. The people must just bear that in mind.
100%. There's a comment here by Stephen at TNT. It says that looks like America is the only country not on the left. Actually, that's not true. The Netherlands has got a center-right government now, and it's trending the correct direction. Pierre Orban has held the line in Hungary for several years. Beyond that, we see a right center government in New Zealand, of all places, that came into power when Jacinda Ardern left. Canada is very soon likely to get a very strong conservative government under Poilievre after Justin Trudeau leaves office there. The trend is on the upward swing around the world, and it's long overdue. Not that right is correct, but given how demonic and lunatic behavior we've gotten out of the left, anything that's not that this day is an improvement. So it's good to see that people are focusing on the rule of law and what's right and wrong, what's moral and just, because we haven't seen that for several years. It got, I got to tell you, these leftists are their own worst enemies. I mean, they set the goalposts, they get there, and they're not satisfied, so they move it further, and they impinge on people's liberties more. They get that, then they go further. And further and further and further. And the next thing you know, they're advocating for biological boys to play in sports, to deny girls scholarships and opportunities to play in professional sports because these biological boys get it. I mean, this is insane what this world has come to. And we see people in America for 50 years getting away with racism by having affirmative action, which gave people, based solely on their skin pigmentation, no other fact, that they the right skin pigmentation, they gave them preferential hiring, they gave them preferences in contracts with the government, and it went on for 5 decades. It's racist. You don't right the wrongs of the past by giving a group artificial advantage. You're simply replicating the problems by reversing it to a different group and give them the advantage, which is what's also happened in South Africa. What you do is you invest in education, you invest in communities, you invest in infrastructure to lift all boats, and then those people who are historically disadvantaged will get better education, they'll improve their skills, be a better opportunity in a job place, and then if there's a need to intervene because people are still discriminating, then you do it. But you don't simply go, oh, you can't have a contract unless you're black. You can't have this job unless you're black. You can't do this because that is simply the same thing flipped 180 degrees. All of it is morally bankrupt. It is wrong. It is against the will of the people. And if you believe in a deity, it's clearly against the will of a God, because that is not acceptable. That is wrong. And call it what it is. It's racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. Racism is racism. And it is racism. And it needs to stop the world over.
I agree with you. But yeah, it has gone too far, and that's the problem. It has gone too far. I think in the United States it's still more balanced, but here we are actually over the edge. It has gone too far, and still, as you have said, corporate world are silent, they are quiet. As long as they make their money, don't say a thing. They accept everything as it is, and they disregard the plight of their own people.
Absolutely. That's part of the problem. And look, people lose sight of what governments are, and they really do. And this is what's disturbed me the most about governance in this millennium. People the world over, including the United States, think the government is there to meet their needs. That's not the purpose of government. Polities, the body politic, people, form governments to represent their mutual needs, like defense, to protect you against invasion, to protect you against people coming across, and also to punish transgressors in society. That's why you have law enforcement. That's why you have courts. So when people misbehave, when they diddle your child, or they steal from you, or they murder someone, there must be a price to pay for that and serve as a deterrent. That's why governments are formed by polities. And beyond that, they also are formed to adjudicate matters. Because if Wynand and I have a disagreement, we might come to an agreement. The odds are, if I want something that's on his property and I'm willing to pay him what he wants to sell it for, we'll disagree, but we're not going to reach an outcome. Governments form a means for redress. So for instance, if I have a contract with a supplier in Uppington who's providing generators for me, and I pay them up front for 100 generators and they deliver 10, And I'm like, where's my other 90? Well, I don't have them. Well, give me my money back. Well, no, you paid already. Well, I have a dispute now. In a functioning society, we have a government that has a system that allows me to take them to court to get my resources back. And I can seek redress from someone who's cheated me. But people lose sight. They think the purpose of government, and I was going to come back to this earlier. You said the guy with the ranch, they turned off his electricity and turned off his water. Well, I mean, isn't that unconstitutional? We're told that's a human right under South Africa's constitution, water and electricity. How could you take it away from somebody? There's a problem. But the point here is that we form governments to protect our mutual needs, not to give us electricity, not to give us a SASA grant, not to give us welfare. That's not the responsibility of government. That's the responsibility of your community. Your faith, your church, your synagogue, your mosque, that community, people in your community are there to help people when they're in hurt. It's not the responsibility of Americans to pay for $8.1 billion in HIV care in South Africa. That's the responsibility of South Africans. That's why we have states.
Exactly.
That's why we have states. And to attack America for giving you 22 years to solve the problem, and then we finally pull away, is disingenuous. The president's emergency plan for AIDS relief was an emergency program. 5 years, $15 billion, $3 billion a year. We actually spent $45 billion over those 5 years because Congress kept putting more money into it. 85% went to African countries. But the proviso was they must wean themselves off this program. That's why it's 5 years long. Here we are 22 years later, and we're still spending $6.5 billion per year. It's time for Africa to grow up.
Agree. And that's why they are not worried about food security. Because in the African context, they've always received food assistance from the European nations and from the United States. In the old days, South Africa was supplying even to the DRC DR Congo, which used to be Zaire. All the food was sent from here to there. So they are so used to getting it free of charge. So why do they want to work for it? Why do they want to produce? And before they don't realize that, they are not going to change it around.
No, you're 100% correct in that. You know, it's interesting that if we go back to expropriation and compensation, just wanting things, we hear arguments about expropriation, the land, but virtually all land that's occupied in South Africa today, if it was taken by conquest, if it was purchased by legitimate means from the Basotho or the Tswana, or it was expropriated by the apartheid government, all of those are true all situations. And also some land was simply unoccupied because people didn't use it because it wasn't fertile, it wasn't watered, there were no irrigation systems. All of that land that's occupied today has had improvements on it. It's been made fertile, it's made productive, there's silos, there's equipment. And this argument that taking the land back and taking the wealth back, that wealth was generated by the sweat and labor and toil of the farmers and their farm workers, or those who use the land, not by those who occupied it 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. So the whole argument in that respect is disingenuous, and people completely ignore that. We've seen what's happened with expropriation in KwaZulu-Natal at the Dawn Valley Farm and also at the Ponderosa Farm, a dairy farm, that are complete destruction, disrepair. You can see the satellite photographs 10 and 20 years later, how nothing is growing. It's all gone to crap because of the way the government's managed and handle it, and everyone's poor and there's no farming going on there now. We've also seen the basically extortion that happened against the Akalan Broderie. And I've seen the fake news in News 24 saying it was never expropriated. Well, that's true. But in the Akalan Broderie situation, they sent a letter of expropriation on a Friday, no time for the owner to respond. He was told to vacate by Monday, and he reached out to SAAI. They didn't have the resources, so AfriForum got their attorneys involved. It wound up costing over 800,000 Rand to stop that expropriation order. And in the end, the farmers were still cheated out of their land. And the paper will say, well, they got 80 million Rand, 4 times what the government offered. Well, yes, because the government offered money that was less than it was worth. And then the owners saw that the handwriting was on the wall. They would just come after them again. So they were put into situations untenable. So they took the best they could get, and they got 80 million from a coal company. A coal company, Wynand. This wasn't the claimants whose grandfathers lived on the land. This was a coal company. And the coal company is headquartered in Melbourne, Australia, not even in South Africa. Oh, no, by the way, if you look at the board of directors for that coal company today, of the board, half are Chinese nationals. So they have 4 mines, not in Australia, not in China, in South Africa, 4 mines. Where does that coal go? That coal goes to China. And the claimants who made the land claim have never gotten the claim. And oh, by the way, that coal company, which had to take this game farm and destroy it and take the land away from people, they bought it. But they had to do that to explore for coal. There's no coal being mined there. They sold it to a Saudi prince. And now a Saudi prince who doesn't live there owns the land, and the claimants still don't have land. So who was this expropriation for? Was it for the benefit of black South Africans? No. And most of the expropriation is not for the benefit of South Africans. It is for the benefit of connected cadres and the wealthy, privileged elites. That's what it's all about. And that's the true story about what's going on in South Africa. And the lies that are told, like Agri SA, there are no invasions, that's a lie. We've seen what's happening in Shisheho, in Limpopo, at Polokwane. It happens in Joburg. That's why there's a company called the Red Ants. They specialize in forced removals off of land that's illegally occupied. They've been doing it for over 2 decades. By the way, it's a BEE black-owned company that beats black people up and tears down their shacks and steals money out of their pockets and takes their mobile phones, and nobody says anything about it. So I don't want to hear any nonsense from people who don't know what they're talking about. This is a reality in South Africa. This is a tool to defraud, to steal, to abuse, to silence opponents of the government, and that's the bottom line. It's not for black South Africans. It's not going to benefit them. And the people that think it's going to benefit them are complete rubes or fools. And that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, Chris. Yeah, we have been busy now for an hour and a half. No?
Yeah, it's probably about that time to wrap up.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me close the poll here. I did a poll again just a little while ago after we've been in this for a while. Hang on a second. My YouTube tabs keep crashing. I don't know why. So I have to open this up again so I can close the poll. But I want to close the poll, and I'll tell you what the results were. It wasn't open the whole time, so let me see how many votes we got. We got 581 votes. I'm going to close the poll now. Okay. So interesting here, Wynand. I've done the poll, and most times I've asked the question, would you take Trump up on his refugee offer? Most of the time I've done that, I've just given 2 answers, yes and no. This time I said yes and no and wait and see. In other words, I'm going to wait to see what the program is. So given 3 options, the percentage of people that say they're going to take the offer still was 66%. Again, not a representative sample of South Africans, but certainly if 66% of the 600 people said that, that means 400 more people on top of the tens of thousands of people who've already told me they're going to take it up. So, the press is being dishonest. Anyway, let me turn it over to you for any final thoughts. I'll let you wrap it up with your final closing thoughts for this fireside with the colonels.
Okay, how many people is waiting?
Waiting for what?
I mean, waiting to see how it plays out.
Oh, it was 19% this time, or 14%. What did it say? 19 or 14? It was 19%. So 1 in 5 people said they want to wait and see what the program says.
Okay. Now, Chris, it was great talking to you tonight. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about a lot of things. But the first thing is, I was attacked when I said that Donald Trump, if he comes into power, will make a difference. And people have said, no, man, Donald Trump will not make a difference. He will never look at South Africa. There's nothing going to happen here with us. And that has been proven wrong. What plays out in the world, it's a small world nowadays. Wherever in the world it is happening, it will have a role or influence in any other country that exists. And we can't get past that. But I think for the people that wants to leave, they will have my support. The people that wants to stay, yes, I'm also one who will stay. But there's also a good reason why we want to stay. But for those that can't fare better, yes, take the opportunity. And a lot of people will wait and see how it is playing out eventually. But for my side, Chris, I think it was a productive chat tonight. Thanks a lot. I appreciate. And you stay well, and we should we should do more chats. Sometimes it's difficult, but yeah, let's see how it plays out and when we can get on the air again.
All right, sounds like a plan. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Danke, Wynand. You go well and take care of your family, and it's a pleasure as always. Go enjoy your condensed milk now.
Okay. Cheers, all everybody that is linking or who is watching. Stay well, have a nice evening, and I'm back tomorrow morning in my normal broadcast schedule. Chris, you stay well as well, and yeah, stay healthy.
I'll try, but I need to get back to exercising. I'm not very fit right now. It's time to get back out there and hit the road and run and walk. But anyway, thanks a lot to folks. My co-host on the program tonight, Fireside with the Colonels, Colonel Wynand Toit, up there in the Northern Cape. Thanks a lot. Have a good night. I'm going to stay and wrap up, and I'll close in a couple minutes.
Very well. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, I hope that you enjoyed that. You found it useful and informative. It's been a while since we've been able to do this. And now we're able to do it again. So there you go. Thanks a lot to my co-host. Always a pleasure to have him on the program, insights. And for those of you, I hope I didn't miss any super chats. It wasn't intentional if I did. My apologies for that. I think I caught most of them. Scrooby Noobers, the Chinese have adopted some tenets of free market capitalism, but they cheat. They're intellectual property thieves. They're copyright thieves. They put artificial and actual physical barriers on imports to protect their economy, and they do a number of things that undermine economies around the world. As soon as I can be approved for relocation, I'll be the first on the flight out. Okay, all right, well, I wish I could fly first class. Never flown. I've flown business class on a couple occasions, but never first class. Thank you both. Factual comments, highly appreciate both. Keep on doing a great job. Both appreciate blessings. Thank you, Patches Snow. And Jan van Driel, Fafi is a form of betting played by, okay, I'm not that familiar with that. Isn't that with dice? And then Luke says, thank you, you're welcome. All right, and am I missing anything else here? I'm going to go back and just double check to make sure I didn't miss super chats. I don't want to shortchange anybody on that field. So let me just go very quickly. It takes me a moment to get there. And I will see super chats. Here we go. All right. So, all right. I think I've got all these. Terre Blanche. We're not there yet. Okay. Arctic says, see, this is a super chat. I think that was here. Oh, okay. The problem is we do not have someone to take the lead. Okay. I missed that one from him. Stop spamming. Someone's laughing. I'm not spamming. Okay, and then LT Ghost started off, says, Wynand Yes and Ista. Colonel Chris, keep on trucking. Thank you for that, LT Ghost, and thank you for your super chats. I know you did several of them. And then what else? Have I missed anyone here? And then Jan van Driel says the Chinese are racist. He says they're racist. They live in gated communities in Joburg. Well, there's certainly there are a lot of bigotry in that community. That's for darn sure, especially against Africans. Listen, folks, if you're not a subscriber, please become one. We didn't get many subscribers in this chat, so I suspect most of you are already subscribers who watch it. Thank you for that. But if anybody isn't, if you like the content, please join us. We're trying to push on to that 50,000 mark. It's been pretty exciting for the past few weeks, but things have slowed down again the past couple of days. Maybe it's the weekend. I'm not sure. I am in the process of editing my next video, which will be sanctioning South Africa. Sanctioning South Africa. So that video will get dropped here hopefully in the next hour. Please go watch it and check it out. Also, I encourage everybody to watch the 14 most frequently asked questions that were addressed to me early on in this process. That video is still valid. If you're expecting something from the United States today, it's a federal holiday. The government isn't working today. So the embassy is closed in Pretoria, if you haven't figured that out. So nothing would come out today. So it's President's Day. Anyway, thanks a lot. We went over 1,000 likes. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that. And for the super chats and the new members and for the big audience, over 7,000 tuned in. You're very welcome. Thank you guys for being here. Nico Nell says, thank you. Great info and like your platform. Well, thank you. We try and we're finally getting a bit of traction. It's taken a long time, but we do appreciate it. Also, I have some exciting news, which I don't know if I can break it. I think I'm allowed to break it, but I'm going to hold off on that right now until I verify. There's a project that's underway and I'm included in it and you will find it fascinating. And I look forward to it, participating in it. We'll see how it goes, and I'll give you more information. I was supposed to do a release of this today on my Twitter account, but I was broadcasting, so I couldn't get to it. So I'm going to go back and verify what I'm allowed to share with people, and then I will be putting something on my Twitter account. If you're not on my Twitter account, I'd ask that the 858 people here go sign up right now for my Twitter account. Don't lie to me. We know you all have Twitter. Everybody has Twitter. Go to Twitter. So at WMW Chris, that's my Twitter handle. Go subscribe there. And we also have a community over there for people on Twitter, Making South Africa Great. That's the community we have. Let me see if I can find that real quickly here. I don't have that here. I thought I had it here. Okay. All right. There you go. Okay. Cool beans. So thank you all for being here. And thank you to my co-host, Wynand Toit. It was a pleasure. Also glad to see that he was not the gentleman that was lost. I'm sad to hear the person that was lost. Captain Toit. What a tragedy for him. Thoughts and prayers to his family. Be sure to like the video. Thank you all for your patronage. God bless. Have a good day. I don't know if I'll do a Night Owls, but I'll probably do a late night stream again tonight. So thank you all so much. I don't know why people say I look tired. Do I look tired? There's no bags under my eyes. I'm not tired. I'm good. I got plenty of sleep this time around. Yep, thanks, and we'll see you. And with that, we're going to wrap up with this video, with the slideshow. Hope you enjoy this. Thanks a lot, folks. Catch you later. Please watch the video that will be dropped in the next hour. Bye-bye.
Close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll
This morning I'm sharing the stage with guinea fowl, and quite a few of them, as you can see. They're sharing the stage with guinea fowl and barking dogs in a residential area here in Somerset West.